Hey everyone, and welcome to the fourth part of Let's Play Dungeon Shotenkai. In the previous episode, we went on a quest to deliver a pretty stone to our first customer, a mysterious girl named Mana. Along the way, we met some new characters and learned a little about the town's dungeon mountain. In today's episode, we will be going through our game's second scenario, which is randomized depending on certain conditions. After completing the scenario in our previous video, we are free to explore the town and do some things at our own pace. This includes exploring the dungeon, exploring town locations at different times of the day, and possibly unlocking new characters or items. By now, I realized that I had an item shop but had not opened the shop at all in the previous scenario, so I started my gameplay by selling items I collected from the dungeon. I find that I almost always failed to sell my items at a regular price, or even at discounted price. Coming from Recettear, I assumed that I could sell items at regular price or even marked up prices, but in this game, it's a little more unforgiving. I have to sell everything at half price, which is the lowest price possible at the very beginning. That means the only way I can earn money is to obtain items at the dungeon for free and sell them at the lowest price, the half price at my shop. The only benefit of doing this is to increase my reputation or relationship with the customers, which according to online guides say will eventually increase the customers' budgets, much like Recettear, but it will be a slow progression. In Recettear, you can easily improve relationships with customers by selling items at a price that they agree with, and that is usually at a profit. I also read a comment on one of the Japanese blogs that say, the better your relationship with customers, the more likely they will sell you rare items later in the game. Later, I decided to wander around town. Upon visiting the town plaza at midnight, we encounter a well-dressed, pale-looking man. He is immediately smitten by our protagonist, Sarada, calling her sweet honey and making a lot of cheesy comments whenever we talk with him afterwards. His servants, Cutie and Gomor, arrive almost soon after and urge him to return home before the sun comes up. As they leave, we are informed that the Earl group is now recruitable, meaning that we can bring them into the dungeon with us later. Before the scene ends, a generic uncle tells us that there are rumors of vampires in the area, alluding to the Earl group we had just met. We visit the Thieves Guild a little later and are greeted with a new cutscene. A group of female thieves are having a quarrel with Gahingo, the Thief Guild's leader. The female thieves leave shortly after, but not without upsetting Gahingo. As Sarada enters the scene, she gets chased out by Gahingo. We find the female thieves outside the building and introduce ourselves. Ruby is the leader. She is accompanied by her members Sapphire and Garnet. Soon enough, we're informed that the thieves group is now recruitable as well, and we can also visit Ruby's hideout. After some poking around, I decided to try starting the new scenario. The way to start a new scenario in this game is to just go back to Sarara's bedroom and take a rest. If there is a scenario available, Choco will ask if Sarara wants to draw a new tarot card, which will allow us to pick a random new scenario. In this case, when we draw a new card, we get the broom. The scene starts with golden flashes of light outside of Sarara's bedroom window, catching the attention of Choco. They couldn't tell what the light was and eventually proceed to turn in for the night. In a dream-like sequence, we see a flashback of Sarara, who is about to leave home, probably as she is coming of age and becomes independent. Her mother hands Sarara a witch's broom and tells her that it is a family heirloom passed down through generations. Although Sarara is somehow not able to fly using the broom like normal witches do, her mother insists that Sarara keeps the broom regardless. Her mother believes that it will be of help someday. In the next morning, as a result of drawing the broom tarot card, Choco is reminded of the broom that she received from her mother and takes it out of their storage. We now have the witch's broom in our inventory. Choco also brings in the mail from the front of the shop. The mail is a notification from the Merchant Guild, informing us that golden dye and bird lime has temporarily doubled in price due to current circumstances. We go to the Merchant Guild to find out more directly from the guild leader Gamets. It turns out that the price regulation was in response to an incident involving the town's royal family. Princess Aurora's pet golden bird is gone. The pet bird has escaped from the castle the night before, which is probably what Choco saw outside the window in the previous night. The castle has offered a reward to whoever can find the missing pet golden bird. This has sent adventurers into a race to hunt for the bird. This has also led to scams where people are catching regular birds using the bird lime, painting them gold with the golden dye, and presenting them to the king for a quick and easy reward. And thus, the Merchant Guild has to order the merchants in town to double the price of both the items to deter scammers and scalpers. From further conversation with Gamets, we learn that golden mushrooms, the raw ingredient used to make golden dye, can be found in a dungeon. He asks if we can collect the said mushroom for him. Gamets says that he will buy it at a high price, so why not? We accept the request and off we go into the dungeon. Before entering the dungeon, poking around the adventurer bar reveals some additional interesting stories. Gustav, the barkeep, is having an influx of adventurers who are selling him unwanted birds due to the recent bird hunt. He made the opportunity to turn them into yakitori, a Japanese word for grilled chicken. Since he has a surplus, we get a free yakitori from him. We also see a couple of adventurers discussing their failed attempts to capture a bird, dye it gold, and present it to the castle. Apparently, everyone else had the same idea, so they were turned away immediately. But that doesn't stop them from wanting to try again. We make our way into the dungeon, discovering the golden mushroom on the second floor. We also find a golden feather alongside the mushroom. A new character appears at that moment. They introduce themselves as Haruka, a member of the Dragon Clan. They are looking for a golden creature as well, but they call it a legendary yellow dragon. Before Haruka leaves, they reveal that the golden mushroom is poisonous. Could this be why there are a lot of dead birds being sold to Gustav as a result of them being painted gold? Anyway, we got what we came for, so we return to the Merchant Guild and get a reward from Gamets, a whopping 4,200 gold. We also show him the golden feather that we found. Gamets deduces that the golden bird may have escaped into the dungeon rather than into the open wilds. He proceeds to relay this news to the royal family. The news also spreads all over town, causing adventurers to focus their attention into the dungeon to hunt for the elusive golden bird instead of capturing wild birds and killing them in the process. As an additional reward for bringing the news to the Merchant Guild first, Gamets gives us a bird cage for free, in case we want to capture the golden bird with it. Once again, we venture into the dungeon, this time in search of the golden bird. We encounter the pair of shady adventurers we met earlier in the bar. We learn that the thief group and the knight group are also in the dungeon, somewhere on the higher floors. I'm guessing this hints that we might get involved with them later in the story. We encounter Haruka again a little further into the dungeon. They tell us of a bird flute. The Dragon Clan uses the bird flute as part of their training when riding dragons and talking to birds. Haruka is able to make those flutes, although they don't have the materials at the moment. Haruka says that in the past there were sky trees at the top of the dungeon mountain which can be harvested to make bird flutes, but they have become extinct. However, it just so happened that we have Sarara's broom in our inventory. Haruka notices this and says that the broom has a scent of the sky and suggests to try making a bird flute out of it. I guess that this may be the only way to lure the golden bird out in the dungeons and capture it, so of course I let Haruka turn Sarara's broom into the flute. We meet Haruka again on a separate floor, where they have completed making the bird flute. Thankfully, Haruka only made 2 flutes, one for themselves and one for Sarara. Since the bird flute doesn't use much of the broom, Haruka also returns Sarara's broom. Choco gives Sarara a good nagging about carelessly giving away our family heirloom to be turned into flutes. although it all turned out well because the broom is still somewhat intact. We explore the dungeon a little bit more, and we find a dirty bird feather. We pick up the feather and use the bird flute. A golden bird appears, so this must be it, right? We promptly capture it with our bird cage and make our way to the castle to present it to Princess Aurora. But Princess Aurora says that the bird is not hers. It seems like we captured one of those fake birds that the adventurers tried to use to scam the royal family. Looks like we have to try looking for the real bird in the dungeon again. A little more exploring later, and I think we found the right bird this time. In a different room, we find a golden feather instead of a dirty feather. We use the bird flute again. A dirty looking bird appears. I think it makes sense that the golden bird that has gotten lost would eventually become dirty instead of staying golden, so this should be the right bird. But we don't have an empty cage to capture it with. The bird escapes and we leave the room empty-handed. We tried going back to the Merchant Guild to buy another cage, but Gamets doesn't seem to sell it, nor does he mention anything about it. At this point, I honestly didn't know what to do. I assumed that I needed to find a bird cage as a treasure in the dungeon, so I spent a lot of hours grinding in the dungeon and trying to go as deep as I could. Until many hours later, I realized that I had forgotten to visit an extra location, which I unlocked early in the story, the secret shop. The secret shop is sort of like a fail-safe for the game. In case you accidentally sell or lose an important or rare item from your inventory, you can visit the secret shop to buy those items again at a hefty price. I thought the prices at the Thief Guild's dark market was high, but the prices here are even more absurd, like 5 times the original price. Thankfully, I only needed to buy one bird cage, which I could afford. At this point, I had grinded in the dungeon for a decent amount of time, so I used some of my money to upgrade my merchant levels. We eventually locked the ability to customize our shop's interior at merchant level 5. I picked the cute interior because I thought it suits Sarara better. Anyway, back into the dungeon. A little further up the dungeon, we encountered a female thief group. Ruby tells us that they are also looking for the golden bird, but not exactly for the reward itself. They say that the bird has a royal ring attached to one of its legs, which allows them to have some sort of privilege over the royal family when they make negotiations or when they face a trouble with the royal knights. And so we eventually encounter the dirty looking bird again in one of the dungeon rooms. Upon successfully capturing it, Choco points out that the bird has a royal ring on one of its legs. This is no doubt the bird we are looking for, so that's great. At this point, I kind of forgot about the knight group in the dungeon, so I just left. We return to town and visit Ruby's hideout, where she tells us more about the royal ring. If Ruby possesses the ring, it will smooth out her plans in dealing with the royal family. I had 3 choices. I could give the ring to Ruby, or return it to the royal family, or I could keep it to myself as an equipment, which I could bring into the dungeon. I didn't need to keep the item to myself because it's not exactly the best accessory in the game. To be honest, when I talked to the royal family earlier, they didn't seem like nice people. On the other hand, Ruby and her mates were always friendly to Sarara. If I give her the ring, she might like me even more. She might visit my shop more, and perhaps help me out later in the game. So obviously, I chose to do the cheeky thing by giving Ruby the royal ring instead. As expected, Ruby was delighted with the gift, and rewards Sarara with a thief ring in exchange. The news of Ruby possessing the royal ring traveled fast. Gamets is aware that Sarara is on good terms with Ruby, suggesting that we should keep at Ruby's good side, now that her political influence is improving. Of course, he doesn't know it was us who helped Ruby in the first place. Our final destination for this scenario is the Royal Castle. We talk to Riot, who seems to be a little down from the news about Ruby getting her hands on the royal ring, but he believes that justice will prevail despite Ruby's influence. Riot is able to recognize that our captured bird does indeed belong to Princess Aurora. It looks like our hunt has come to an end. I feel bad about this, but at this point, I had already watched a Japanese YouTuber who played this scenario, so I was spoiled in terms of the ending. Here, when Riot asks if we want to give the golden bird to the princess, the common natural action is to say yes, right? And we will be rewarded with the money and take the credit for the effort. However, if we say no, we can eventually suggest that Riot takes the credit instead for finding the bird. This is because we know by now that Riot is secretly in love with the princess. So by letting him take credit for it, we could be helping him get closer to the princess. And that is what I thought I could do, at the very least, for sort of betraying him by giving the royal ring to Ruby. Riot at first declines the suggestion, but eventually relents. Riot visits the shop the next morning to thank us for letting him take the credit for the deed and to hand the prize money. While he sort of took credit for the retrieval of the golden bird, he did inform the king that it was us, Sarara, who actually found it. He also commented that Princess Aurora was too concerned about nursing the bird back to health rather than thanking the people around her for finding it. So it didn't seem like we helped Riot much in improving his relationship with the princess. And with that, the golden bird is safely back in the hands of Princess Aurora, and our quest has come to an end. It was a rather long scenario this time, but I hope you enjoyed it. Although the story for this video is technically complete, there were a few interesting things I learned along the way, such as missed content or a secret alternate ending. I didn't expect this game to have as many secrets and branching content as it did, so not only was it a pleasant surprise, it was also a little daunting to know that it's impossible to experience 100% of the game without replaying it more than once and performing specific actions to unlock certain parts of the game. I would really like to make a separate video in the future to talk about these additional content, game mechanics, and maybe the game's lore itself. But for now, I don't think the game is popular enough to justify my effort. If you ever want to try playing the game, you have to know some Japanese. And if you know Japanese, you can find all this information in Japanese blogs and YouTube videos by yourself anyway. So perhaps an English video is not necessary. Thank you again for watching this video. I hope the next scenario will not be as complicated as today. Thank you so much and see you in the next video.